NIO is launching battery swap franchising, and there's 3 different business models that you can choose from. Absolutely crazy. Guys, in this video, I'm going to do a full recap of NIO Power Day, which just happened today. The whole presentation was like 1.5 hours long. I recorded everything. I watched everything for you guys. So make sure you smash that like button because nobody else is doing this. All right. So first of all, NIO CEO took center stage and he talked about the battery asset management company being established in Wuhan since 2020, August 20th, and then NIO Power also got a 1.5 billion RMB investment, and it serves as validation for NIO's future. So with that, NIO Power's new headquarters will be in Wuhan, and then they will also build a factory there for battery swap stations. That new factory, which is swap station factory number 3, which we've talked about in previous video, this new factory will have 1,000 plus power swap station capacity annually, and it'll be 20,000 square meters big. And then NIO Power's core philosophy has always been user-centric, tech-driven, infrastructure first, and open to cooperation. So where users are, there's gas stations. Gas stations are at convenient spots. So should swap stations. And through cooperation, expand the network. So NIO CEO briefly recapped on current status. So there's 24,720,000 new energy vehicles in China. That's a population. 7,120,000 have private home chargers. So only 30% have home chargers, 70% don't. Up until today, NIO has 2,480 swap stations, 23,009 public chargers. In terms of chargers, NIO is ranked number 1 for an automobile company. There has been a total of cumulative 45,637,000 charging orders. 80.25% are from non-NIO owners. Lots of power journey routes have been added to give a dedicated charge swap infrastructure to reach scenic destinations that were previously impossible with electric cars. There are over 550,000 NIO owners on average. Everybody's done about 100 swaps per NIO owner on average. There are 832 swap stations along the 13 major highways in China, which received the highest reviews because of its swap and go. 19 provisional divisions with gas stations like experience. So basically in 19 areas throughout China, most of China, driving a NIO is like driving a gas car. There has been 273,907 flexible battery upgrade orders so far. It reduces environment resources by not forcing the customer to buy the higher capacity, larger, more expensive battery pack, and also, of course, saves them money, and it saves environmental resources. All right, and then he talked about some recent achievements. There were 9 NIO owners who took 35 days, went past 8 countries, and went to Europe. And it shows, how far NIOs can go. And there was actually one NIO owner who drove 16,000 kilometers to go to Paris to watch the Olympics in his NIO ES6. So he drove for 55 days, 12 countries, 20,000 plus kilometers. Now, he also announced today that there will be power-up counties. So basically, throughout every county in China, there should be a swap station, or you can get from county to county using swap stations without even charging. So he set the goal. So by June 30th of 2025, there will be chargers in all counties. So NIO chargers, you can go from any county to any county, and you can use NIO's chargers. And then in terms of NIO swap, they're gonna phase it in 3 phases. So the first phase, so the same date by June 30th of 2025, 14 provinces and 1,200 counties will have swap station and swapping freedom. And then by the end of 2025, 2,300 plus counties, and by 2026, 2,800 plus counties throughout China. So that's why they need a new battery swap station factory, because they're going to be building a whole lot of swap stations. So they also talked about the in-house R&D from day one, end-to-end capabilities, 2,100 plus charging and swapping patents, number 1 in terms of patents. 54 standards jointly developed by NIO makes them closer to standardization. And this is, of course, in cooperation with the government. All right, these 54 standards of battery swap. NIO launches a new portable car-to-car charger, 40 kilowatts, 1000 volt, 95% energy conversion, weighs 29 kilos, and can be placed in the trunk of the car. It's like a 20-inch suitcase almost, and it's to be used in emergency situations, like maybe in the desert or somewhere like that, where charging resources is very scarce. And then he talked about smart swap-enabled swap stations, 23 batteries, 480 max swaps per day, and then they used hardware LiDAR to direct non-autonomous driving cars to be able to swap autonomously. And then he talked about 3-shift sync swap, which is basically the technician, NIO owner, and NIO HQ can all see real-time progress of swap. And then there's also autonomous valet swapping later this year. He talked about NIO Power's cloud-efficient management system. They have Athena for intelligent site selection, decision support. How they can accurately predict how much demand for swaps in a certain area. Do they need a swap station there? And then the Power Swap Station Digital Twin is the virtual swap station that you can see. There's 100 million plus event tracking, so 100 plus million different things that are being tracked, 200 plus data points. People can see exactly what's going on with every swap station. Also, sales reps use it to show it to customers. There's 24-hour monitoring, and there's a battery safety management model. So there's 98% detection rate for problems and detects problems ahead of time, and the diagnosis accuracy is at 95%. And this is all done because thanks with the digital twin. All right, so they're able to see what's going on with that swap station, also what's going on with the batteries. So next, he talked about NIO virtual power plant, which is basically like grid stabilization and energy storage. So on the Shanghai grid, 126 swap stations was able to divert 61,894 kilowatt hours of peak load shifted. So this is just basically not charging in peak hours. And then 1,767 swap stations and 27,000 chargers are engaged in this virtual power plant. So basically they don't charge when there's high peak prices for electricity. So the first expressway power up station is in operation, and this is kind of different, which it can swap but also obey orders according to the grid and release power to the grid. So these ones are coming online, and this one was launched in June. So very soon we're seeing a lot of these swap stations that can also release power back to the grid on command by the grid. And NIO also launched a V2G based local power management. So basically you can sell electricity back to the grid using your car as the battery. You can earn about 10,000 RMB through the difference in electricity per year, or roughly about 1,500 USD per year. And then NIO's president Qin Hong went on center stage and talked about how partnerships help them achieve goals. Cooperation is always a better option, and it's hard to achieve NIO's monstrous target with NIO alone. And there's over 6 million plus registered users on NIO's Power Up app, which is a dedicated charging app for non-NIO owners to charge at NIO Power chargers. He talked about swapping partners, and he updated everything and said that everything is progressing well, and friendly competitors still need time to do R&D and develop the car from the ground up to accommodate for swapping. So it still needs time. And then from 2021, they've had strategic partnerships with energy companies, the 3 big Chinese oil companies, and Shell. Together, they've built 333 swap stations in 3 years, and with 2 of those swap stations in Europe. And then Zhong'an Power will build 1,000 swap stations plus charging stations in Anhui province, which is home of NIO's manufacturing base. And then the first one was already built in June 2024. So these guys are committed to building out a lot of swap stations using their money. And then NIO finally talked about the Power Up franchising model. And then you can power up to become a franchise brand. It's open to everyone. And he said that infrastructure is a responsibility for everyone and not just for NIO. So there's three important partnership models. The first one is a simple charging partnership, charging franchise. So for charging franchising, it's very common in the industry. What you need is you need to have a dedicated, your own field or your own parking lot, own area. You have to have energy capacity to accommodate for fast charging, and you have to have construction capabilities. So if you have these, you can utilize it. And this is actually very common. So for example, restaurants would be the prime customers for this, or local Airbnb, hotels at some touristy areas, they would join in on this kind of partnership. All right, so this is very, very nice. It's just you're building charging stations. All right, very easy partnership. Partnership number 2 is a charge plus swap investment. So you put up the money, NIO does all the heavy lifting, and then NIO does all the site selection, all that stuff, and the investor receives a fair fixed return on their investment with very little to no risk. The only risk is if NIO went under. All right, it's very suitable for investment funds seeking stable returns, and it doesn't really matter how the swap stations perform, so there's no stress. So it's just fixed investment, basically. You can think of it as a mutual fund almost. Fixed investment. You put up money, you get some money back. All right, so this is pretty nice for those that want stability. Now, for those that want more, I guess, skin in action, there's fixed returns plus dividends. So you see great potential in the electric transition, and you want to earn more money in the future as swapping and charging becomes more and more popular. Then you join in on this, and it's basically like number 2, you're putting up the money, but it's dependent on how the swap station performs. So if the swap station performs well, you obviously earn more dividends from the revenue generated from that. And if it performs not so well, you obviously get fewer or less dividends from that. So he once again emphasized how there's virtually no risk unless NIO goes under. And then he also had a small signing event. And these are all energy investment companies, car service companies, some of them medium, large companies, investment funds. They all joined in on these partnerships, franchising swap stations, and also charging station deal. So those guys on stage, they're actually some of the partners, franchising partners, which is absolutely nuts. So it shows that there's great interest on this franchising model, as a fixed investment or as a, skin in the game kind of investment. But it's looking good. It seems like there's lots of interest to also help NIO build swap stations. So it's not just going to be a big cash burden for NIO. Everybody else is also going to be placing up their money as well. All right, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.